Hello guys, welcome to the Breast channel. I'm so sorry for not uploading videos in recent weeks. I'm back and back for good. If you are new here, please subscribe. If you are old, thanks for staying with me. In this video, I'm going to learn how to design a one-week poster. So without any further ado, let's get started. First, you have to create your paper size. The paper size I'm going to use here is A3. So with my paper size, the width is 11.7 and the height is 16.6. Orientation is portrait. You can see that our background is white, so I'll go to my layer panel and add some gradients to it. With the gradient, I will choose from white to red. I'll double click and pick the color. The color is red, and double click there and choose white. I'll add another red to it and I press OK. I'll bring the red back a little bit. And I press OK and OK. I'll right click and rasterize. Go to my tool panel and pick my eraser tool. Now brush the top off. I'll go to my resources and bring in the background. I'll scale it. You can press enter or you can double click on your mouse to select OK. I'll right click, rasterize and pick my eraser tool again. I'll erase the top. This time I'll increase my opacity and the flow to 90%. So you can see that we are brushing the top off. I think 7% will do. And I'll change my blending mode to hard light. Let me reduce the opacity again to, let's say, 3%. I'll then lock my background. I'll go to my resources again and bring in these curtains. I'll place it on top there and scale it a little bit. I have to zoom in to know exactly what I am doing. To zoom in, press Ctrl on your keyboard and the plus key to zoom in. And I'll double click and press OK. Oh, I forgot to lock that one. Let me lock it. I'll go to my resources again and bring in the prophet of God. And you can see that the image is under the layer. So I want it on top of the layer. I will drag and put it on top of the curtains. I'll press Ctrl T on my keyboard to transform and scale it. I'll double click and select OK. I'll go to my layer panel, right click on the image and rasterize. I'll pick my eraser tool and brush this side off. And you can see that it perfectly blends with my background. I'll go to my resources again and bring in my rounded frame. I will need double of that, so I'll duplicate it. Press Ctrl+J to make a copy. Then I'll go to my tool panel and pick the eclipse tool. I'll draw a shape inside the frame. I'll press Ctrl+T to transform. Then I will hold and drag this side. I will zoom in to see it fit inside well. I'll use my arrow keys to make sure it fits perfectly inside the frame. I'll then go to my resources again and bring in another picture of the prophet of God. I will scale it down a little bit, and this time I'll place the picture on top of my eclipse. I'll go to my layer panel, right click on the picture and select create a clipping mask. So you can see that the picture is clipped inside the eclipse. I'll transform the picture. I'll select the image, the eclipse, and the frame. Press Ctrl+G to group them. I will rename it to frame 1. I'll do the same thing as I did with the first frame. I'll then change the color to white. I'll go to my source again and bring another picture of him. I'll press Ctrl+T to transform the image. I'll press OK when I'm done. Right click and create a clipping mask. I'll transform the picture. I will then go to image, adjustment. Under the adjustment, I will select black and white. I won't do anything to it. I just press OK. So I'll select the image, the eclipse and the frame 2 to group them. I will name it to frame 2. I will select the frame 2 and scale it. This time, I want it bigger than the frame 1. You can see that the frame 1 is under the frame 2, but I want it on top of the frame 2. So I will just hold and drag it on top of the frame 2. I will select both frames and scale it. I'll go to my sources again and bring in this flower. The flower is big for me, so let me reduce the size. So I will place it in between the frame 1 and the frame 2. I want to create some space at the top there because I'll be writing some text on it. Since we have done with the images, let's add the text. So with the text, I'll write 1 week. I will select all and reduce the space between the 1 and the week. This time, I will select only the 1. And reduce the font size to 76. I'll press Ctrl+C on my keyboard to transform the text. After that, I'll go to my text property and decrease the space between the 1 and the week. You can see that the 1 week text is inside the frame, but I just want it outside the frame, so I just drag it and put it on top of the frame too. I'll be needing more space to write the text there, so I have to push my curtains up a little bit. After that, I'll pick my rectangle tool to draw a rectangle beneath the week. I'll pick my lasso tool and make selection on the rectangle. Then I'll come to my layer panel, click on the rectangle and rasterize. After that, I'll press delete or backspace on my keyboard to make a cut. I'll pick my lasso tool again and make selection half of the rectangle. I'll right click and select via cut. Then I'll come to my FX, color overlay, and change the color to red. I'll hit OK. And then I'll reduce the space between them using the arrow keys. I'll press Ctrl J on my keyboard to make a copy. And then I'll edit and write observation. I'll press Ctrl T on my keyboard to transform and reduce the size. I'll go to my text properties and change the color to red. You can see that the observation is under the rectangle, but I want the observation to be under the 1 week. So I'll just select my rectangle and push it down using my down arrow key, and the observation, I'll use my top arrow key to make the changes. I'll then select both text, the 1 week and the observation, to scale it. The font I'm using for the observation is Canberra Bold. I'll make a copy of the observation, edit and write the name Prophet. You cannot see because the observation color is red, so don't worry, I'll change the color. I'll press Ctrl T to transform it. Now, let's add the edge. You will pick the eclipse tool and then you draw a nice rounded shape. I will right click, go to my blending mode and choose gradient. So I'm going to add gradient to the eclipse. I will go to FS and add stroke to the eclipse. I will do the side and I'll click OK. Then I'll add the edge. I'll write 57 and change the color to black. Now we are finished with the edge. Let's add the name. I will duplicate the prophet, edit and write the name TB Joshua. I will go to my text properties and change the font of the prophet to Elita calligraphy. Let me bring in my ruler. So I'm drawing this line to make sure that my work is centered. I don't want my work to be over the ruler. I just want it on the edge of the ruler. So I'll draw my ruler and then I'll make sure my work is not over my ruler. I'll go to my FS and add gradient to the name TB Joshua. I'll increase the angle to 20% and I'll click OK. I'll add the date. Okay, let me do something here just to make my work look stylish. I'll pick my rectangle tool and draw a rectangle under the name TB Joshua. I'll change the color to white and duplicate my rectangle. I'll use my right arrow key to move the copied rectangle. I'll duplicate my eclipse and scale it down. Then I'll move it in between the two rectangles. Let me draw another ruler. I will select both rectangles and scale it down. And I will do the size of the eclipse too. I will select the eclipse and both rectangles and group them. So I'll write the date. The date is 12 June 2021. Since he died on the 5th day of June. The 1 week will fall on exactly on the 12th day of June. The venue and the time. I'll write the 12 June 2021 and I'll place it against the date. I will change the date font size to 49 and the 12 June to 49. And I will add the venue, and the venue will be at his church premises at Lagos. And now I will add the time, and the time is 6 a.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. I will select the date, the venue, the time, and group them, and I will name it date. I will pick my rectangle tool and draw a rectangle under the date, and I will change the color to white. I will copy the time, move it on top of the rectangle and the date, and write all are cordially invited. Then I'll go to my text properties and increase the space between them to 100%. I'll rasterize the rectangle, pick my lasso tool and make selection. I'll press Ctrl+D to deselect. I'll duplicate all are cordially invited, place it here, edit, and write covenanting protocol shall be observed. I will change this color from white to black, and this one from black to white. I will do some adjustment to my background. Select my background, pick my laser tool, and brush this side off. I will go to my resources again and bring in the African pattern. I will scale it up and I will reduce the opacity. I will go to new layer. I will select new layer on top of my African pattern. Go to my tool panel and select my brush. With the brush, I want the soft brush. I will change the foreground color to sea blue, and I will reduce the opacity and the flow, and I will brush on top of my African Adinkra pattern. I will then add some curve to it just to make my work look branded. Please, if you found this helpful, let me know in the comment section. It's because of you guys the channel is moving. Keep supporting me and hope to see you next week. Bye bye.